right.
John, I don't want to waste my battery, so do you want to do it after Ken dies?
Okay, I'll just do the first part. A little bit. Like cookie stuff.
Thank you, folks. There's more of the family up here. You'll meet in just a second. Glad to see you all here. You may be seated if you'd like. I'm Lockhart. I'm honored to be here, kind of part of the family. And ladies and gentlemen, from the windswept plains of the prairies to the snow-capped peaks of the Rockies, it's time to celebrate. It's time to celebrate the life of Tim Mantle, a man we all loved and admired. And that's why we're here. Let me introduce to you his nephew, Kail Mantle. He came from the great state, and I do mean great state of South Dakota, where even that cowgirl governor is. And we all like her. Would you trade us? Any chance? Well, there's also great cowboys up there. That's old Casey Tipp's country as well. Okay, Kail, I hear is a pretty darn good cowboy himself. All right, Kail, would you please give us some history and memories of the man whose life we are here to celebrate? Thank you guys for coming so far.
Hello, my name is Kail Mantle. For those that don't know me, I'm Lonnie Mantle's son. Most of you probably know him as Nav. And to say we lost a legend here, or 2 or 3 or 5, is kind of an understatement. I mean, as I go down through Tim's story here of his life and some of the memories that we all have with him, it could make a pretty good movie. And this really is just a pioneer story as I go through this. Tim Mantle was born November 25th of 1938. Hell's Canyon, located in what is now Dinosaur National Monument, to Charlie and Evelyn Mantle. He was the 5th of 5 children, only child born on the homestead that his father had purchased in 1919. This ranch was located at the bottom of a deep canyon Yampa River, and the only way in and out was horseback or wagon. My granddad made the only road in there. He did it with a pack horse and a team. The guys that could get the help with it. It was a 50-mile ride to town. His parents thought he was coming in December, so the plan was to go out to Hell's Canyon to Craig and await his birth, but he fooled him, came early, and was born in the canyons. And Tim and all his siblings and the neighbor ranch kids, they attended school through the 8th grade in the canyon, were either taught by a teacher that was hired, or stayed with the Mantle family, who were taught by Evelyn herself, and she was a pretty tough teacher. She actually flunked my dad in 4th grade. Tim was ready for high school. They all attended Wasatch Academy in Mount Pleasant, Utah. After graduating high school in '56, Tim attended Colorado A&M, which is now known as CSU, Fort Collins. Graduated with a bachelor's degree in biological science in 1960. While attending college, he and his brother Nav would earn extra money by entering the bronc ride wherever they could go. If the Mantle boys were entered, by God, you could sure that they were going to win it. They not only attended the rodeos in Colorado, but also in the surrounding states, and all of the Mantle boys were damn tough bronc riders. And they rode broncs out there on a 60-degree angle where the only sand was probably 1,000 feet below. So when they got to a flat arena, it was no challenge. They took the money. Tim learned early in the value of hard work and passed that value on to his family. Him and his son Dean rise with the sun and seldom quit until after dark, and he said that it used to be when your horse was worn out and the day was over, it was done. Now we just get more fuel and keep going. The time on the ranch was good, but we didn't know any different. He was drafted into the Army in 1961. He attended basic training at Camp Oregon, California, while attending the Little Rodeo in Boulder, put on by his older brother Pat and friend Buddy Hayes, and met the love of his life, Rue, Becky. The prettiest blue-eyed woman he'd ever saw. He just walked into a party after the rodeo and spotted her sitting on the floor drinking champagne out of a bottle. He told his friends, my God, he's going to marry her, and he did. He said he was damn lucky to get her, and they were married on November 24th, 1962, and he often joked that he got married and he'd aged him a year. His birthday was the next day. Now, they took a road trip down to the canyon to kind of show her around and let her see what she was getting into, and I'm not sure whether the full disclosure came before or after the ceremony. So, anyway, Lou tells the story of Tim and Lonnie and her taking the brand new Buick on the road to the rodeos. Well, they hit Porcupine and something happened to the wiring and the taillights wouldn't shut off. And Dad jumped out and said he knew how to fix it and kicked the taillights out. She was pretty proud of him for that one. I come to think of it, my dad bought married a woman with a brand new car too. I'm kind of seeing a pattern here. Tim would go up and leave Rue and grandmother and Evelyn in summer at the home place to tend to the orchard in the large garden while he'd spend the summer up on Blue Mountain with the cows. And because because of what my grandmother and grandparents did, their place was really self-reliant. They grew and bought everything that they could possibly need, but that meant they had to can and do all that work in the fall. So they had a cellar that they kept everything in, and most everything they needed was right there on the place over the years. So when I say that she attended the garden and the orchard, it really was a full-time job. The ranches were, and then they bought the Bowers place, and that was in Greystone. And it says the ranches were connected across the river from each other. Now, when I say connected, there's an 8,000-foot cliff here, and then it's 5,000 something down to the river, and then another 8,000 feet up the other side. So when they say that they're connected, you got to understand that this isn't just a day ride. It takes a lot of work, and my grandmother tells the story that she said she always had a kid on the front of her saddle. Mm-hmm. She said that one night she was riding an old horse out through there, and she kept feeling a blast of wind, just pitch dark. She saw a blast, kept feeling a blast of wind, kept feeling a blast of wind. And I remember her telling this. She said, I got off, I don't know why, but I got off my horse on the right side. And she lit a match, and she was right on the edge of that cliff above her. 1,100 feet down and 700 feet back. She just threw up. Well, the ranches were connected, and Tim's friend Jim Wright would help him shoe the bulls so their feet would hold up in that rocky country. And I asked Dean this morning about shoeing bulls, and neither one of us could figure out how they kept them on, with being split in the middle like that. Someday one of you guys got to tell us of your perception how that works. I haven't seen it. In May of '65, the Roo came out of the canyon state with friends Dean and D. Katie and Dinosaur. And while awaiting the birth of their son Dean, he was born on May 30th. Tim LaRue and Dean stayed in Steamboat where Tim opened the snowmobile business. Dean started the first grade in Steamboat, but then continued in Meeker. He lived with Aunt Sue and cousin Steve during school, and would summer with his mom and dad and work cows. In '71, there was a terrible storm, so they leased out their snowmobile business. We turned down to the Bowers place to take care of the cattle. We went on to the canyon place. Mike already helped Tim get the cows home, and Tim told a story about when him and Mike were living on jackrabbits that winter. Meat was pretty scarce. If he made it home, LaRue also cooked the rabbit. Mike made the mistake of saying it tasted funny. Well, LaRue was pretty proud of him for that, because Mike's always been pretty good about keeping his mouth shut. And Tim jumped in and said that the ones that they ate were gut shots, so that would make them taste just a little bit green. He later sold Bowers Place and focused on the home place, and Tim and his family continued working the ranch until the Mormon crickets run them out. It was basically just a plague. And Tim, LaRue, and Dean partnered up with Dick Collins and later Gerald Massey on Peons Creek and ran cattle on the Square S. In the fall, Dean and LaRue would gather the cattle, while Tim focused on a new venture of taking hunters to Baker's Peak near Bags. Dean graduated in '84. The three of them took over the ranch and have been there ever since. Dean married his high school sweetheart, Brooke, and they have two boys, Bailey and Doak, and continue to run the ranch, Peons Creek, and Blue Mountain. They purchased additional properties in '95 and again in 2003 in the Peons Basin, and one of the properties they sold in 2001. And Tim's longtime friend Alan Story talked Tim into purchasing two mobile home parks located at Cedar Ridge. The camping place was also sold along the river there in a private individual in 2004. Now, there's a story Alan Story's telling about him and Tim went hunting in Kansas somewhere. And anyway, they were sitting in the wooden shed made into a deer blind overlooking the alfalfa field, and while they were waiting for the deer to show up, they heard a large animal rummaging under the floor. So they went out into the barn, and I had to look this up on the internet because I didn't know what it was. And they found an old bear beaver trap, and that's a full body trap. It's square. And if you look on the internet, you'll see how they're not really that easy to set. And neither one of them had any idea how to set it, because it's a body trap, and they weren't used to it. So it's a large square trap with two square sides that folded together when sprung. And as they learned later, this one had no safety catches to use it, so you don't catch yourself and suffer the painful consequences. So don't get ahead of me here. We figured out how to open it, he said, and Tim held it open with his hands, and without the safety catches, there was no way to let it go. Realizing the calamity that he was in and kind of a puzzled look on his face, he asked Alan what to do to free himself without smashing his hands, and Alan was laughing so damn hard he had tears in his eyes and couldn't help. And he couldn't quit laughing, and finally he told him, well, you got something to sleep with tonight. Unfortunately, he didn't sleep so well. Alan said that was the best story I know. He said that was the best deer hunting he'd ever done. Well, anyway, Tim always loved a good beefsteak. During the holidays, him and LaRue enjoyed son and Dean's house and spent it with the family. And that's one thing about the Mantles that they all installed in all of us was families first. One of his favorite traditions was to hurry up, feed the cows, head up to big Christmas on morning breakfast and waffles and homegrown pig. Watch the grandkids open their gifts from Santa, and they were pretty patient little guys, and the rule was they could only open their stockings. They had to wait till Grandpa Tim and Dad were done feeding the cows. They always had animals eat first. Tim and Dee would gather Grandma LaRue up, head up to Dean's house, and open their gifts after a huge breakfast. Grandpas are a lot softer than the real parents, as you guys know, because those aren't the same guys that raised us kids. I'll tell you that. Tim, me and Steve and Dean can all attest that those aren't the same. They look the same, but they're not the same guys. Sometimes we didn't know they were trying to train us or kill us. He always had at least one cat in his lap, a couple of very loyal dogs by his side, and he also had a fondness for pet chickens. Later in life, he became quite the gardener, one of the very few individuals who grew a good crop of corn on peanuts. Onions and radishes more than he and could ever eat. He was preceded in death by his parents Charlie, Evelyn, brothers Potch and Pat, Lonnie, Nav, sister Queen, and baby girl. He's survived by his wife Rue for almost 60 years. Their son Dean, daughter-in-law Brooke, two grandsons Bailey and Doak, many cousins and nieces, and every one of those people that was raised in that canyon continued the tradition of making people better than they were before they met them. And we install that in all of us too. And it's really going to be hard this month, come in here and not see Tim's smiling face looking back at me from the sale. So that's all I got for you.
Thank you, sir. A very unusual life the Mantle has led. I do believe the Wild West was a little more moral and civilized than what we have become today. Well, now let's hear some wise words from Mark Bishop. Frida is Quita. Bless her heart, I know exactly how she felt all her life. She was the only girl with all those boys. So her daughter Frida, this is her daughter, Frida's husband, messed that up a little bit, but got it figured out. This is Mark Bishop, and from everyone I've heard in the family, they have a huge respect for Mark and his words of wisdom. So let's hear Mark, and thank you.
Thank you, Cookie. I kind of think the deck was stacked against me a little bit here. It's always hard to follow a man because they can tell a story better than anybody else I know. Good job, Kail. So did you hear the one about the cowboy, young cowboy? He went to town, he went in the bar, and he sat down at the bar, and kind of was hungry, hadn't had anything to eat, ordered him something to drink. He looked over there, and he seen another old cowboy sitting there, and he had both arms on the bar, and he had looking down, staring down at a bowl of chili. And he didn't think anything about it. Young cowboy was drinking his beer, and sat there for a little bit, and about 10 minutes went by, and he noticed that old cowboy, he hadn't eaten that chili at all, and the young cowboy, he was hungry. He looked over there, and he goes, "Hey, sir," he goes, "if you don't mind, if you're not going to eat that, I'd like to have some." And the old cowboy just slid the bowl right over to him and said, "Help yourself." Well, that young cowboy jumped in, and he went to eating that chili, and he got about 2/3 of the way to the bowl, down to the bottom, and there was a dead mouse there. Well, he put the chili back in the bowl, needless to say. And he looked back over at the old cowboy, and the old cowboy goes, "You know, that same thing happened to me about 10 minutes I guess it was in me until that one before lunch. All right, so I got one more for you. Where does a cowboy go to think things over? The Ponderosa. Anyway, you know, I think cowboys, ranchers, farmers, people like to hunt, fish, outdoorsmen, anybody that goes out in the beauty of the world that we live in, especially here in Colorado in the mountains, away from the Front Range anyway, a lot of beautiful things. And I think it's a good time that we probably think and sit and ponder about life's questions and also about God and where everything came from and where we came from. And I'm sure there was probably a lot of days Tim was out riding horseback, gathering cattle, riding through some beautiful country, some rugged country, especially in Hell's Canyon, and like Kail was talking about, it wasn't easy and stuff, but you know, he got to see some things that probably most of us don't ever get to see, and probably realize the greatness of the creation that we live in. Dean told me that Tim commented one time, he said, "You know, I feel closer to God out here on the who do live outside and are outside all the time and have an appreciation of that. It's kind of a natural response. You know, he created this world for us, for our benefit, and he created us in his image. And that's just pretty awesome to think about. You know, I don't know if you've ever really taken much time to think much about life and the way that our world revolves and how everything interacts. I mean, just look at the human body. Think about how our brain thinks and is able to process information. How do we see with our eyes? And we see in color, we see in depth, we see 3D. And that's all transmitted back to our eyes. And really maybe some of us better vision than others, but still, we kind of have that gift. And also just our central nervous system, how it controls everything in our body, every function of every organ. The wonder of childbirth, the way our heart and our lungs and our bloodstream all works together. Or how about if you take a single kernel of wheat seed and you put it in the moist ground and you pack a little dirt around it and enough proper nutrients, that seed dies to its normal form, but it produces a plant. It doesn't look anything like that seed. And in the end, that seed makes anywhere from 10 to 50 times more identical seeds than what we put in the ground. Or how about if you consider a mare, a horse? You know, in our country, typically with cold weather and shorter days and everything, a mare doesn't cycle during like December, January, sometimes February. You know, because their reproductive system is controlled by the length of day. Of course, now, there is one exception to that. If you have a dude horse get out in the sand marsh in December, I don't know why, but she'll breed every time. Normally, without the assistance of some artificial lights or something to fool their system, to make them think that the days are longer, that there's more than 8 or 9 hours of daylight, a mare doesn't cycle. You ever thought about why? You know, God designed it that way, so that their colts are born more at the time of the year. Have you thought about the fact that the deer and the elk, how did they know to come down out of the high country before the snow gets too deep and they get trapped? About the geese and the ducks that fly south and migrate for the winter. How do they know what route to go? Why is it that when you get a snow or a rain that your crops grow better? Probably because of the nitrogen that's in the soil than if you just irrigate it with a well or with river water. Snow and rain has more natural nitrogen in it than normal water does because it comes from out of the atmosphere. I don't know, to me that's not just chance. To me that is just a divine design and a divine origin. You know, we have a verse in the Bible in Romans chapter 1, verse 20, it says, "For since the creation of the world, God's invisible qualities, his eternal power, and divine nature has been clearly seen, being understood from what has been made, so that people are without excuse." You know, that kind of explains why we naturally are drawn to the outdoors, and when we are outdoors, why we do feel closer to God. I mean, because you think about it, man can build a lot of things. You know, you got this fairgrounds here, we got the city of Meeker here, these grandstands. We can build a lot of cool things, but we really do not create anything. Our God is the creator. We just use the things that he created for us to make those images. So I think that's why when we're out in the countryside, we realize what a great creator that we have. You know, there's another verse that supports this as well. It's in the Old Testament book of Psalms, chapter 95, verses 3 through 7. It says, "For the Lord is our great God, the great King above all gods. In his hands are the depths of the earth, and the mountain peaks belong to him. The sea is his, for he made it, and his hands formed the dry land. Come, let us bow and worship. Let us kneel before the Lord our Maker. For he is our God, and we are the people of his pasture, the flock under his care." What a great thing to be under the care of God. You know, it might kind of seem a little bit like God is out of touch for us. He's awesome and he's wonderful and he's created everything for us. It says at the end of Acts chapter 17, verse 25, it says that God himself gives all to mankind, life, breath, and everything. And so sometimes it may be hard for us to really realize that we can be close to our God and our Heavenly Father. But, you know, let's kind of think about it from this aspect and kind of try to relate it to common everyday occurrences for us. Take Tim, for example, or any rancher. Let's say you go with them in the wintertime and they go out to feed their cattle. And they drive out there in a pickup or a tractor or whatever they use to feed cattle with, or a team on sled, whatever. Those cattle either recognize the sound of that vehicle or the horn honking or the voice of that rancher calling, and they come running. They know they come to feed because they know that's where care is. And it's always kind of interesting to me, you know, whether you're shaking a cake bucket out there for them, there's always those cattle that will just come right up to you, and they'll stick their head in the bucket, you reach over and rub on them. Some others maybe just stay a little bit further away, but they're right there close to it. They're ready to get that cake or that hay that you dropping down. And then there's those cattle that you know, they're kind of off in the distance there a little bit, and kind of got a weary look in their eye. They know there's good stuff there, but they really don't know if they can approach, or they don't feel comfortable about approaching or whatever. And you just know in your heart that you gotta, you know, just at the wrong sound, the wrong movement, whatever, they're going to get alarmed and they're going to take off and run for the brush, and you won't see them for the rest of the day. And I'm sure if you were there with Tim, you know, Tim could tell you about each one of those cattle, and, you know, this one we bought at the sale barn, rifle or silk or whatever, and this one he raised, and that one he had to, you know, it was a heifer that he kept, but he had to pull that one in the middle of the night one time, and he knows everything about it. And I'm sure there's some of them, you know, are kind of his favorites, and the ones that he likes better than others, and probably some of them that was going to be on the next trailer to the sale barn as soon as they had that calf. They were done staying in his place. And then he had those that he loved that were good producers that took care of him and his family and raised good calves and everything. You know, we kind of have that same relationship with God. Some of us might be a little bit closer, some of us a little bit more distance away. But the thing we need to remember, though, just like Tim, he provided care, feed, and water for every one of those cattle, no matter what. Our God does the same thing for us. He takes care of us physically and our needs, no matter how close we are to him. And it's not impossible to be in his presence. You know, God told Jeremiah in the Old Testament book of Jeremiah was a prophet for the people at that time. And in chapter 1, verse 5, he told Jeremiah, he said, "Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. And before you were born, I consecrated you." Basically, what God is telling us, Jeremiah, is I've got a plan for you. I have had a plan for you before you were even a twinkle in your daddy's eye. He knew, and he knows us. He knows each one of us today. So we do have the possibility of having that relationship with God. You know, Luke chapter 12, verse 7 says that even the hairs of our head are numbered. And for some of us, that number gets a little more negative every day, unfortunately. But that's all right. God still knows us, and he knows how many hairs are on our head. What an incredible thing. That's the thing that I don't even know about myself. You know, the last thing of it is God truly loves each one of us. John 3:16 assures us that, because it says, "For God so loved the world that he gave his only Son, that whoever believes in him should not perish but have eternal life." Jesus went on to say, John chapter 14, verses 1 and 3, he said, "Let not your hearts be troubled. Believe in God, believe also in me. In my Father's house are many rooms. If it were not so, I would have told you. But I have gone to prepare a place for you. But I go and I will prepare a place for you. And I will come again, and I will take you to myself, that where I am, you may be also." What a great gift to know that Jesus has gone to prepare a place for us. A place infinitely superior to where we are right now, or anything that man can ever build. I can't even hardly imagine what probably heaven would be like. So my question for you today is, you know, So whose pasture are you living in? Who's your shepherd? Who's watching over the flock that you're a part of? I assure you, friends, that we do have hope in God. We have hope of spending eternity with Him, and we have hope of being reunited with those that we love that have gone on before us. You know, the Bible is a roadmap to help us get there, and together we can. If we work together, friends helping friends, we can all make that trip someday and spend eternity. We'll see Jim again someday. You know, the Root, Dean, Brooke, all the family, I just please want you to know God loves you, and we all love you very much too. Cookie has a poem here that she found for me that she'd like for me to read. That I close with. It's by Baxter Black, and it's called I Know You'll Miss This Man. The Lord spoke to heavy hearts that stood with hats in hand. Your sadness pains me deeply, and I know you'll miss this man. But it's true what you've been hearing. Heaven is a real place. There's no small consolation. You should use that fact to face. The emptiness is parting left that seeps into your bones, and draw on it to ease your pain. For he is not alone. You see, all of his friends are up here. Excuse me. And all of his loved ones too. Because it wouldn't be heaven without each one of you. And heaven for a cowboy is just what you might expect. It's horses that need tuning up, and heifers that need checked. It's long rides with a purpose and a coat that lights the way, and a satisfying reason to get up every day. It's the ranch he's always dreamed of, never knew he'd find. And if you think about it, you can see it in your mind. Him leaning in the saddle with his old hat in his hand, contentment set upon his face like blankets on the bed. The leather creaks a little as he shifts there in the seat. The bit chains give a jingle when his pony switches feet. And you somehow get the feeling that he's sitting on a throne, gazing on paradise, just like it was his own. I can promise you he's happy, though I know you can't pretend. You're glad he made the journey. It's hard to comprehend. The earthly way you look at things can never satisfy your lack of understanding for the answer to why. So I offer this small comfort to put your grief to rest. I only take the top things because my crew is the very best. And I know it might seem selfish to friends and next of kin, but I needed one more cowboy to keep fit right in.
Thank you. I tell you, Mark, give me a hold. That's what probably is. It's my kid. The whole family told me how much they had respect they had for you, and now we all know why. Thank you. That said, we got started a little late, so we had to leave a little bit out here because of the cater. But we'll get through as much as we can. We didn't want to leave anyone out. There were several people that couldn't get here, several of you are, and just didn't want to speak. But pretty much everyone thought the same thing. You know, it's this came from different friends, but you know, they said things like what a great one he was, and last of the real cowboys, as we knew him anyway. And we need a whole lot more of him to straighten out our country as it is today. I'm sure Sam has them hardly guess if Boyd and Wanda Walker were alive, they'd have much more to say. But Johnny Cy Johnson also was a real close friend of his. They tried to get something to me that he had written, but we wanted to mention him because I know they were close. Sam Haslam's daughter, Terry, said she remembered what a stand-up guy Tim was, and he wouldn't tolerate any BS. Said a true cowboy and part of the dying breed, and he will be missed. She said, I'm sure my dad, who is Sam Haslam, and Tim are getting together up there today. Might be cocktail hour or something. But according to Dean, Tim did read the Bible some because his mother told him to. You know, why he knew right from wrong, and he lived that to the, he took care of the land and cattle with wife and Rue and Dean too. And that's what men are supposed to do. Tim's brother, Pat Mantle, was my best friend as well as my brother's, Darwin. And, you know, Pat would go around shaking hands with everyone, kissing babies. You'd think he was running for office. Then you can tell by now Tim had his own original and superior sense of humor. Niece Cammy told the story when they were to meet Tim, and the family finally got there. and Tim was a little late, I guess. He said, well, we would have got here sooner, but we run into a herd of elk, and we had to shoot our way up. Now, some people wouldn't get that, but I bet everybody here did. I just saw a news flash, and it said none of us gets out alive from this rodeo called life. And I had a strange dream the other night. I was in an announcer stand with my brother. It was a 7-Eleven rodeo, and all the contestants there was named Mantle. And I woke up and thought, well, that's kind of strange. Doesn't anybody, isn't there any of the other cowboys? There's none other like those. It's the Mantle boys. So the original Mantle cowboys are all together now, and I'll bet there's one heck of a rodeo going on somewhere. Tim and I emailed often last year after hearing a few of his mutual friends passing on. Tim wrote a line to me and he said, thanks, Cook. Him and Pat always called me Cook. We are among the fewer daily, I guess we're wearing out. But at least we're still going, although not real strong. And that's true for, I guess, all of us. We did have that other poem. Would you want to give that? You know, there's a really good story, though, that Alan Story gave us. And it was a real estate deal with Tim, where they sold the ranch and then they traded for a mobile home park. And the mobile home park came with a manager. And I guess this happened in Boulder. But about 6 months went by, they were going over the income statements and expenses, and they smelled a rat. There was about $100,000 missing. So Tim and Alan went to Boulder to meet with this manager unannounced. At his office, the manager was very anxious, and when Tim placed his briefcase on the table and opened it up, there was a Colt 45 on top of some papers. The manager's eyes soft as big as golf balls. Not a word was said, but the manager left in the middle of the night in the moonlight, never to be seen again. So Tim was a heck of a warrior where the old West stayed young, and that was very effective. So I guess we're about all done. Was there one other poem, or were we all through? I think we've outdone it, guys. You did a wonderful job. The family and myself want to, thank my family and myself want to thank you for coming today. And Tim would say, let's have a little drink and go to work. A little drink of whiskey. Well, we're going to have a little bit to eat right over there in that building. And celebrate his life. That's what we're here for today. Not to be sad and cry. We're celebrating that we ever got to know him. Because it was better to have known him and lost than never known him at all. He was one heck of a man. If you all would please stand in honor of Tim, glue your eyes here over on the rodeo arena. I believe we have a bucket horse. This is in honor of Tim. Let's go. They love it. All right, folks, we'll see you all over there. What a tremendous ending. I guess you did that. Dean did that. Whoever did it was very nice. Thank you, guys.
That was really clever.